Now bring in Nick Dodge, who I've just exchanged a lot of emails with lately. And he's from I'm going to get the correct title. He's from the Michigan League of Conservation Voters. And I received a press release, I don't know, a week or two ago from Nick talking about what a lot of other people are talking about is, God darn it, why can't we keep the lights on? And so one of the things you guys are taking a look at or demanding is that there be more investigations into that. And then when you submitted your the talking points today, you brought up some very good ones that I hadn't even thought of that we shall discuss today. That you're looking at all the money that we're being charged by DTE and consumers primarily, although there are other utilities, but they're the big ones. And the fact that we have in Michigan one of the worst rates for keeping the lights on. Why is that, Nick?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show here today. Really excited to talk about these really important issues that are on all of our minds right now. And so the question is, why do we have such a hard time keeping the lights on? I think that's the question we're asking ourselves. And we have a public service commission here in Michigan. It's a body that is supposed to regulate the utility companies appointed by the governor. And, they're supposed to, hold the utilities accountable and make sure they're doing all the things they need to be keeping the lights on. And, we also have a legislature that passes laws that regulate the utility companies as well. And they also should be passing laws that are making sure we have, reliable service. So I think that's really the $1 million question. And, we are looking at, data from the Energy Information Association, which is a federal agency. It tracks all the utility companies across the country. And we're seeing, here in Michigan, we're having some of the longest times to get the lights back on, some of the most outages. And then, you look at the region, we have the highest costs as well, specifically on the residential customers. If you're talking about industrial users, commercial users, so the big power users, that's a little bit of a different story. If we want to talk about residential ratepayers, we have some of the highest. So we're asking that question too, and that's why we're demanding for an investigation. We want leaders in the Public Service Commission and in the legislature to step up and start asking the tough questions of these utility companies and really hold them accountable and hold their feet to the fire. We really want some good answers so we can, come to some solutions and make it so we don't have to go out without power every time there's a storm here and there, which is happening more frequently now that we're seeing, especially this summer.
Right, and we have this problem with reliability, but the DTE has also had several rate increases in recent years, correct?
That is correct. Yes, many rate increases. You can look at it all. It's in public record. It's pretty much every year almost. They have a rate increase, and it's not just $10 million or 15 million here or there. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And a lot of that burden falls on the residential ratepayers. So, you and I that pay our energy bills every month.
And of course, I'm sorry, Matt, did finish your thought.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a follow-up, and I've heard from DTE saying, look, we have a plan to increase reliability. We're partway through it. What do you say to that?
I say that should have happened years ago. That was yesterday's, problem that we should have had solutions for already. They need to do more, and we're seeing these rates, they keep going up, but the service, as we all are seeing, continues to be subpar and inadequate for people who just want to keep their lights on and make sure their food doesn't go bad. Or that they just went to the grocery store and spent $150 on. We've heard stories from people all over the state who have had these, in some cases a week without power. And, we have to really think about that in terms of an everyday person, how that impacts them, especially folks that are struggling to get by. And, that's their weekly budget for the groceries. And if it all goes bad because they don't have power for a week, that can have some pretty hard financial burdens on people.
And at the same time, you pointed out that DTE made $1.4 billion last year. So they're doing okay, it sounds like.
They are doing very well. Both of our utility companies are doing very well as far as their shareholders are concerned. And I think another really important thing to note that a lot of people may not realize, but I think it's really shocking once you do realize, is last year these utility companies didn't pay any federal income tax. They were tax exempt last year. So you have to kind of wonder and start asking the question, where is this money going and why are we not getting the service that we deserve? So we're saying, we need to get to the bottom of this. And as a matter of fact, before you raise our rates again, we need answers. We don't want to have another rate increase here without answers to these questions of why our service is so bad and our reliability is so poor.
So what kind of investigation are we talking about here? What would you like to see happen specifically?
Well, we would like to see the Michigan Public Service Commission to hold a hearing, and they have committed to hold a hearing, actually.
October 22nd, I believe the date is, yeah.
On October 22nd. So that's a good first step. According to a Detroit News article that ran today, there's going to be a legislative oversight hearing scheduled for when the legislature returns after their summer recess. We think that's also a good first step. We do want to see a commitment, though. I mean, I don't think that we should have another rate increase. I mean, I know Consumers Energy is currently has a rate increase up for consideration with the Public Service Commission. I don't think that should be approved until we have some real answers here. We would like to see some concrete next steps. We would like to see some firm commitments during these hearings. We don't want excuses and a lot of technical excuses on why this is. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we're raising rates every year and we're not getting adequate service. So something needs to change here, and we hope that these hearings will start getting more questions answered and also getting the public involved too, because I think ratepayers, customers, they have a key role to play as well. We all have a say in this process. The utilities are governed by this Public Service Commission, and they're beholden to the consumers as well. And we have opportunities to engage. So I really do hope, and I anticipate there will be a lot of public input on any of these public hearings that happen.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, what kind of questions, if you were in the PSC's shoes, what kind of questions would you be asking?
I would really want to get down to the bottom of where is this money going as far as these rate increases. I would like to see exactly what is being spent on, and then I would also like to see any sort of studies on if the current tactics that they're employing are even adequate or the best that we could be doing. I think there's a lot of expertise on the Public Service Commission to help guide them and how they should be doing things. And they will say tree trimming, that's the solution, and we really think that they can do a little bit better. We are not the only state in the region or the country for that matter that has a lot of trees. Yes, we do have a lot of trees, but that's not the only solution. And I think we really need to start looking into preparing our energy grid and our whole energy system for a grid that's really worthy of where we are in the United States of America in 2021. They should have been thinking farther ahead before then, but now I think is the time to really update the grid, get some grid hardening. There's a lot of different options with burying power lines and different things like that. But other states have figured it out, obviously, because they're not in the situation that we are across the board. So I think there are some things that they can be doing better.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we had a long session about electric vehicles and electric grid and charging stations and all that. And had a couple of auto industry experts, including Paul Eisenstein, who also mentioned that he had been without power for about a week or so. And I think Paul lives in Ferndale or Royal Oak, in that general area, which is,
Pleasant Ridge, I think it is.
Was that what it was? Pleasant Ridge? I knew it was, so. But in an urban area where you would think that, I can see it maybe in the rural areas, but in urban areas, and even here in Ann Arbor, I've lost power 3 times. And of course, now we have a lot of trees. Yes. And then last week we had Chairman Scripps on from the MPSC, and we had a long conversation about that. And one of the things he did mention is that the tree trimming really needs to get better. But then I've heard other people say, well, bury the darn, I was going to say a different word, bury the darn lines rather than putting them on poles where now that the weather is getting worse and worse, just look at this hurricane that's devastating the South right now. How difficult would it be to bury these lines?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in planning or construction or anything, but I know that is a solution that other utility companies have used. But really, I think the key question that needs to be asked at these hearings is these storms are getting worse. According to scientists, they're going to continue to get worse as the changes to our climate are happening. So we need to really have a forward thinking approach to this. The same old is not working, and it's not going to work for a future solution. And so, I think if I were sitting in that chair, I'd really be calling on the utility companies, holding them accountable for being innovative. They've got a lot of money to work with here, as we see. They continue to do really well year after year in terms of profits. So we need to really see that money. Maybe they need to hire better experts or other folks to get the correct answers down. But I think the status quo is not sufficient, and we need to start looking into a 21st century grid here, and not the same old that has failed us many times in the past.
Right. And what the utilities will tell you about buried power lines is that, well, those are susceptible to flooding, and it's more expensive, and that kind of thing. But when you start to get into having to do what they're having to do to keep the above ground lines going, I'd really like to see a detailed cost analysis of that, and not just sort of proclamations.
Yeah, I do not have a detailed cost analysis for you here, but I'd be interested in seeing one as well.
Also, the legislature, I don't want to point fingers here, but it has been controlled by the Republicans for the last 10 years. Now there's going to be some changes here shortly once the new commission comes out with all the various congressional and state and Senate lines and whatnot. But I mean, how receptive has the legislature been to putting DTE and consumers' feet to the fire?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the article I referenced earlier in the Detroit News that came out today, really important read. Craig Mauger was the reporter that did this. Some great investigative journalism, honestly. The utility companies donate to pretty much everyone. There's maybe 4 or 5 lawmakers that haven't taken any political contributions from them. And that's sort of the game they played. And they have and they enjoy this, a very cozy relationship with the legislature. And that's both sides of the aisle. That's Democrats and Republicans. They donate to everyone. And so, it kind of raises some questions on, do we need more oversight of these utility companies from our lawmakers? And are they even in a position to do that with all of the spending that is going on in campaign contributions? And I won't even, we won't even go into the, independent expenditure campaigns with these, utility kind of dark money groups that don't even have to really, announce who they're taking money from or how much. It's a predicament. And that's why I think the work of, groups like ours, like Michigan LCD, that's kind of our job, is to, ask these questions, raise these questions, and hold them accountable, and make sure public knows and voters know that, we need change, and we need the status quo is not working. And so it's up to our lawmakers to really hold them accountable, as well as the Public Service Commission.
Okay, we've just got a couple of minutes left, so why don't you give the elevator pitch for joining the Michigan League of Conservation Voters, and how people can get a hold of you for more information?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Michigan League of Conservation Voters, we're a nonpartisan organization. We're statewide, and we work to protect our air, land, water, and tackle climate change, and also make our state a healthier and more sustainable place. We do that by electing lawmakers or leaders that are going to stand up for our environment. And then once they get elected, we work to hold them accountable in the legislature. And we do that by activating members across the state to get involved in the political process and contact their lawmakers. And we provide a ton of resources on our website about all sorts of issues from energy, clean water, water contamination. And that can be found at michiganlcb.org. And that's michiganlcb.org. And you can check us out there. And there's a lot of resources on there to get involved and join us.